Integrated Financial Resource Management, IFRM, is a web-based platform that permits to perform an enterprise-wide integrated stress testing. Here we have all the detail on the different risk-weighted assets for the retail side, and we have all others for SME lending and other part of the bank, such as the required capital for different risk types, etc. Note that risk-weighted assets includes credit risk, market risk, and operational risk to provide a enterprise-wide stress testing exercise. In addition to the risk-weighted assets, which is the capital demand, the tool will calculate the available capital. The available capital is the result of the net profit minus dividends, the retained earnings. Dividends policy can also be simulated within IFRM. IFRM can deliver the integrated stress testing in a format of financial statement. Here we have the balance sheet where we can see more detail on the retail mortgages with the different segments. We can also see what are the different resulting liquidity assets and all other assets and liabilities that result from the projection of the financial statement given the different stress scenarios. As it will be later explained in more detail, all the configuration of products, business lines, asset classes, and financial items are perfectly configurable in IFRM. Liabilities are also projected. If we open here, we have the detail on retail deposits with all the different products and different segments that we have. In addition, we have all the corporate deposit, wholesale funding, all the liabilities, etc. In addition, it provides the P&L inconsistency, perfect consistency with the balance sheet with all the different components and the analysis of the impairments with the same granularity as required for the risk-weighted assets. The output of the integrated enterprise-wide stress testing would include profitability, capital ratios, liquidity ratios, and as defined by the user, including also flags for specific ratios that don't comply with the risk appetite or the target strategy as defined by the upper management. We are now going to demonstrate how to define scenarios based on any type of factor as defined by the user. Factors may include macroeconomic factors such as GDP growth, house price index, unemployment, financial factors such as interest rates, business risk factors such as growth of business or spreads, margins, or customer behavior factors. IFRM permits the incorporation of any type of risk factor. Here we have the macroeconomic risk factors or financial risk factors that are, in this case, we can easily transform them to create new scenarios by just moving these sliders. You can see that these numbers are actually moving, or even changing them here and define it then like just as simple as this. Risk factors may also incorporate business risk factors such as the growth of the different business. So we can, by moving this slider, we can actually change the assumption around the growth of the mortgage portfolio. Or it can also incorporate assumptions around how the new origination will split over the different products. It is also possible to incorporate assumptions around behavioral at maturity or prepayments, as we can see in this part. We can equally change them here manually or doing using the different sliders. Customer behavior can also be configured as an assumption within the liabilities. Here we have within retail deposits the assumptions of the acquisitions of new products and also of the levels of retention and the levels of transfer to other products. And we can model this in as much detail as required by the institution. Other factors related to competence or to marketing or commercial criteria can be incorporated as well, such as a spread over the different interest rates that will determine the interest income of the institution in the scenarios to be analyzed. In this scenario, it can also be considered the hedging structure with all the different swaps available for hedging the risk in the portfolio. It is simple to create a new scenario based on some predefined scenarios. We just change some of the sliders, or we can change any of these other factors, and then we just click, you will just go calculate, and it will project the new the new P&L and the new balance sheet and different ratios. Once the calculation is finished, we simply click on Save, and we'll bring to this other place where all the audit trail of the different variables that have been changed are stored. That would include the macroeconomic variables that we've been changing, and then we simply add a name for for the scenario and a narrative, and then we simply save it. And here we'll have all the collection of different scenarios that have been previously stored in the tool. We can also delete old, scenarios if required, such as this one. We just eliminate it, and then it's eliminated already. All these configuration options for risk factors and different outputs setups allows us to do a full enterprise-wide stress testing and fully integrated and with all the required analysis that are needed for strategic decision, financial planning, and risk management. The tool also provides a dashboard where some main variables can be analyzed to help upper management in their decisions. Here we have, for instance, how the new scenario is affecting the return on equity, the Tier 1 ratio, and the liquidity coverage. And here we have all the assumptions for the case, and also for the written part of the numerical output of the scenario. The user may add any of the stored scenarios to analyze further and to compare with different scenarios how would look like. By the push of a button, it's possible to create any report contained in the tool, either in Word format or in Excel format of any of the tables that are there. We can go into see now quickly. So here we have all the tables and all the graph that has been created for this analysis. The macroeconomic models existing in the institution are embedded into the tool for making a consistent projection. Here are macroeconomic models for performance, for default, for change, etc. The tool keeps the record for all the model governance, all the macroeconomic model governance, with all the parameters together with all the last update of the model version who is the approver, the owner of the model, the version, parameters version, the last date update of the model parameters, or the overall development of the model as it is. We are now going to demonstrate how IFRM can be configured and adapted to the business units, the business lines, the financial items, the methodology and ratios, or any other calculation that is required by the institution characteristics. IFRM is completely configurable. We're going to see how to create a new view. We go here to configuration, and then we can change any of the items here. So we put it's going to offer any other to show in this view. We can also make it active, non-active, etc. It is also possible to define new items by we go here to items, and here we go edit, and then we have this type of formulation where we can add new variables and create a formula here and define flags, etc. Any other item of the tool is perfectly configurable. So we can go now to variables. Variables have several settings that can be done, can be put into as a slider, so we can see it on the left hand side of the different views. We can select the version of the data set. We can here have select which version and then change all that refers to it. There are multiple other such as report that we can see how the report can be defined, so that we can get a Excel printout of the any of the calculations. So if we go here to Excel, it will now generate an Excel with all the results of the P&L forecast. So we can see it here, and we'll see the result also here. Just a moment, it's opening. Yeah, so here we have the items that we selected, plus all the general assumptions that went into this scenario, and all the macroeconomic assumptions are also pasted into the Excel file that is generated with as a report.